You are listening to Lovely Talks Heavy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lovely Talks Heavy. I am your host, Lovely, and I discuss everything I enjoy with regard to heavy music. Here in 2019, I want to rev up the amount of new music that I'm listening to, not just in terms of new releases, but also, of course, things that are new to me. That's right! It's one of those episodes where I check out bands that are new to me and give my baseline thoughts on them. If you're new here, hi, welcome, hello. There's probably a good handful of y'all that are new here. Thank you for checking out what my whole spot is about. I hope you enjoy yourself. So, for those of you that are new here, something I do regularly on this show is take a handful of bands that I have not listened to before, or feel like I should listen to, and give my thoughts on them. Now, considering that there are bands with limitless discographies or just long-ass songs, I give myself a bit of a process to make this a whole hell of a lot easier upon myself. Because, let's be real, I'm just one person with a brain that struggles to function. And no, don't worry, that's not a dig at my intelligence. I just have depression and focus issues. So, what this process entails is that whenever I see a band that I'm interested in, maybe the name sounds cool, maybe I see people raving about them enough, whatever that may be, I stick them on a list. There's so many bands on this list. And from time to time, maybe for this podcast, mainly for this podcast, maybe just on my own time, I will scope their whole thing. Now, for the podcast, to make it easy on myself, again, I pick one album from the band to listen to. If they only have one album, then job over. If they have more than one album, then I just pick a random album or EP, honestly. There's no rhyme or reason to why I pick the albums that I pick. That's just how the river flows. And I keep in mind that the album that I pick might fucking suck. It might just blow and everybody hates it. You know, that happens. Bands make bad albums. They might have exquisite music everywhere else, but this is just a point where I just did not pick good. Another thing might be that this album is not going to be fully representative of the band's sound. I separate this possibility from it being a potentially bad album because sometimes bands evolve their sound over time, or maybe they're just more experimental in nature. So this one album won't give me the full scope of what this band offers. Another thing is that to get the most basic of what the band's about, I look at the band's Wikipedia page or like the About page on their website to get an overview of what they're about. And I keep in mind that they might be just fucking terrible. Oh my god, metal is filled with shitty people and we all seem to applaud that. I do my best here to focus on the positive, and I highlight the things that I like in the music, even if it turns out to not be my thing, or I don't like it and don't think it's good because, this is the atmosphere I try to uphold in this podcast because, hey, somebody else might enjoy this thing that I didn't, and that's fine. But there is no amount of good that the music can be, and there's no amount of good that I can try to look for to maintain the positive atmosphere if the people that made it are complete piles of shitty garbage. And if I notice that in my baseline research, I will point it out. But if that important detail slips by me and I sing praises of a band who are a bunch of shitty people, please feel free to let me know, and I will go back on whatever statements that I have made. So, let's get started, shall we? So one day I saw the name Dawn Raid on my Twitter timeline because if I remember correctly, Kim Kelly retweeted an article about them. It was so rad to see that they were anti-fascist black metal, so there was no question in me in at least giving them a try. Dawn Raid are a black metal band from the UK, and I gave their EP A Thorn, a Blight, released in 2015 a go. One thing that is noticeable in this EP is the use of violin with some drops of folkiness throughout. I really enjoy how they blended the folk with the black. The last song on this EP, Darken the Door, is a wholly instrumental song with a heavier dose of that folkiness. it might just be a new favorite instrumental song. Another consistent thing through this EP is transitions between songs. Now, there's not transitions between every song on here, but plenty to make this person happy. Ew, if you're a regular here, you know how much I love transitions. They are so... Oh, there's just something about the transitions in albums that I'm just... Yes, it's a spicy meatball, thank you. One final thing to note of this is that if you're paying attention to the lyrics, which you should, by the way, just because they are indistinguishable to the naked human ear doesn't mean that you shouldn't follow along with these lyrics, is that there's quite a lot of repetition of phrases and whole verses. They don't copy and paste or even indicate times 4 or times 2 or whatever when these repetitions happen, and I think they trust that people will be able to follow along, but yeah, just, I like that use of repetition. Now, my final verdict on this band, based on this EP alone, is that they're not quite a favorite, but I wouldn't complain if somebody, put them on, implying that I have friends that I hang out with regularly. Don't worry, I have friends. I just like to have a laugh here and there. But, I will give Dawn Raid's other music a try just to see, but I can say that I can recommend Dawn Raid to people who love black metal, especially people who love other flavors of music in their black metal, especially folk music. Oh, also, just so you know, I always link these bands in the description of these episodes, but for those that want to seek out Dawn Raid, it's spelled DAWN space RAY apostrophe D. Now we're moving on to something I find wholesome and beautiful. Rebecca, who designed my logo, got me onto Bloodywood. Bloodywood are a 2-person band from New Delhi, India, and I'm pretty sure that Bloodywood is a play on Bollywood, so I think that's pretty neat. Now, this part is going to be a bit different because they don't have a whole album or EP available on Spotify or YouTube, but they've got a lot of individual songs. Mostly, there's a lot of metal versions of popular songs, which we see a lot of people like Anthony Vincent or Eric Calderon or a little band I like to call Explore Yesterday do. But what I think is interesting is that they do a lot more to make their versions feel more like an original composition. For example, I very much enjoyed their version of Humble by Kendrick Lamar, even though the only thing that felt familiar about the composition was the lyrics, and also, thank Christ that they didn't actually use the N-word, which is more present in the original song. Let's talk about the 2 original songs that they have on Spotify and YouTube. Now, for a band named Bloodywood, they have songs that are just wholesome and unapologetically Indian, which is great. They have a song called Ari Ari, which they've labeled Indian street metal on their page, which is also apparently inspired by the group The Bombay Rockers' version of the song, which is originally an Indian folk song. So there's layers. There's a lot of layers here. Their video, much like the Bombay Rockers, has them and a rapper named Raul Kerr walking through the streets of New Delhi. And I think there's just something pure about that. Just watch that video and tell me that you are not smiling yourself. Raul Kerr rejoins them for the song Ji Vire, which they've labeled as Indian folk metal. The song focuses on being able to heal from mental illness and depression, which hit me. They did something really cool with that song too, and, bought therapy sessions for people to take advantage of, because mental health is important. Again, so wholesome, so great. I would just love for so many of us in metal to bring more of that positive energy with us. I think that's beautiful. Please check out Bloodywood, guys. I think it's high time we finally talk about Greta Van Fleet. I do not see enough people talking about this band. Okay. I know there's plenty of you out there probably that either love Greta Van Fleet or are sick of hearing about them, which, listen, I totally understand. I get it. I feel the same way about Post Malone, which, sidebar, we, as a species, as metalheads, seriously need to stop giving a fuck about Post Malone. He sounds like a goddamn parody of himself, his music sounds awful, and he needs to fucking shower more. I don't care that he likes Power Trip. But moving on. I haven't paid too much attention or mind to Greta Van Fleet. I've just seen their name pop up a lot, and it wasn't until I learned that they're actually from my home state of Michigan that I considered actually listening to them. Because hey, Michigan doesn't have too many good cultural exports outside of Blue Moon ice cream and cars, I guess. And so I listened to their latest album, Anthem of the Peaceful Army, and I'm still gonna need to look for a good cultural export from Michigan, apparently. Apparently, people have made comparisons to Led Zeppelin with this band, and I guess that should have been my first clue as to how I would feel about them, because I don't give a shit about Led Zeppelin. And I know I always try to bring a positive energy with this podcast, and I always give albums a full listen through, and I always try to find something to like about the thing, even if I don't like it a lot. But I didn't even make it 4 whole songs in with Greta Van Fleet, lads. I was so goddamn bored. I was so bored. I couldn't take listening to it. I just wanted to be released from the prison, so I just stopped playing it on Spotify. I'm not gonna say don't listen to Greta Van Fleet, but I will say that there's better music to listen to out there. If you want to listen to good music made by teenagers, just fucking listen to Alien Weaponry. That's good shit. Come on, let's go. We're moving on to a different part of the Midwest now. Over in St. Louis, Missouri, we're checking out Redbait. This is a band that I have seen in the peripheries of my Twitter timeline and also on the Worldwide Organization of Metalheads Against Nazis compilation with their song called Dick Punch. Redbait described themselves in their Twitter bio as, hold up, let me check my notes, Midwest proletarian crust. This has to be good. They've only got 1 EP out on Bandcamp right now called Red Tape, and it's 4 songs and under 15 minutes long. It's this great blend of metal and punk with a more punk attitude. We've got We Refuse and Smoke in Your Eyes, which are great resistance anthems. I particularly like I'll Be Fine, which is a dialogue between a couple where one of them is stuck in what is this clearly abusive relationship. It's angry, it's frustrated, it's sad, it's all around emotional. And finally, we have Dick Punch, but instead a live version of that, and that's a song all about creepoids not understanding the meaning of no and also fuck off. I look forward to whatever else Redbait has to offer. Finally, in this list, we have Heilung, a band that listener of the show Devin brought to my attention. Thank you. They are an experimental folk band from Germany, Norway, and Denmark because their 3 members are from those 3 countries. What I found particularly interesting about this band before listening to them was the fact that the name Heilung means healing in German, which is apparently supposed to be a testament to the style and effect of the music. So I sat my ass down, listened to their album Ofnir, which came out in 2015, and braced myself for those healing vibrations which were supposed to come. And I have to say, Heilung? Sure does, Heilung. I was a bit skeptical at first, but the healing effect did hit me. What was really cool was that we see a variety of languages used in this one album, and I'm sure it's on their other album too. We hear German, English, Old Norse with a German accent, and more, I think. It's not a typical song structure that we see utilized, but instead it's a lot of poetry accompanied with folk music more often. And a lot of times there's only like a few verses of lyrics, but they're just repeated or chanted over and over again, and I really dig that. Gonna be listening to some more Heilung because LBR, I need that healing energy in my life. Alrighty, that's gonna do it for this edition of Lovely Talks Heavy. Did you already know about these bands that I just talked about in this episode? Are any of them new to you? Probably not Greta Van Fleet, let's be real. Hit me up on my social media on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, YouTube, and Mixcloud. I am Lovely Metalhead. Engage with me, and while you're doing that, maybe follow me as well. If you want to give me some feedback, you can also email me at lthfeedback@protonmail.com. I will read your feedback aloud on the show and respond to it, and we'll have a bit of what people like to call a conversation. Be sure you're supporting the show by sharing it with a friend, retweeting whenever I post a new episode. But if you want to take it a step further, I have a Ko-fi page, ko-fi.com/lovelymetalhead. Drop a few dollars in there if you can, but hey, if you can't, that's fine. Just sharing and retweeting and stuff like that is fine too. Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna go listen to the Bird Box soundtrack. Until next week, next Saturday, the next episode of Lovely Talks Heavy here on Mixcloud.com. You stay brutal, my friends. Goodbye!